What's going on, everybody? It's Bulls Nation Station back at it again with another one. Hopefully you guys are feeling pretty good today, as I'm feeling pretty good myself. And I just wanted to talk about the Chicago Bulls. Yes, they played their first game yesterday. Ultimately, it came in a defeat. It came in a loss. I feel like there was a lot of things that you could take away from the game, but there's also a couple of things you could kind of have hope with what you've seen in this game. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and dive into it, but definitely subscribe to my page and like this video if you're a true Bulls fan. And so what went on with this game yesterday? We were feeling pretty confident going against the Pelicans. They were without their best player in Zion Williamson, and off back, it seemed like we were in the game for much of the first half. I feel like we played pretty okay for the first three quarters, and then it kind of got away from us in that end of the third, heading into the fourth. And so the biggest thing of all of that is just turnovers. And it was a lot of silly turnovers, a lot of uncharacteristic turnovers, and it was just a lot of turnovers that we could clean up. And one thing, when you play fast, and that's what the Bulls were trying to do, you're bound to have more turnovers, but a lot of those turnovers that the Bulls had yesterday can be corrected. And I feel like a lot of those turnovers that they had during the game were a result of them not really playing with each other as much as they need to. And so hopefully they can clean that up. The little careless passes when you jump up in the sky and look for somewhere to pass, not knowing where the other player is at. The bouncing off your foot turnovers. A lot of these turnovers can be cleaned up, and that's ultimately where the Pelicans won the game. They scored so many points off our turnovers that it was hard to keep up with. And if the Bulls don't shoot at a super high percentage, then yeah, that's the definition of how you lose. So is it too early to panic? I feel like you can easily overreact from just game one. And I'm just feeling like, yeah, it's disappointing that they lost. I know a lot of people kind of rooted for them to lose, just so we can do the tankathon thing. But I feel like it's a middle ground. We could come to that. The Bulls, if they lose a game where they play well, then that's fine. But if they lose a game where the Bulls could have played better and been in it, then yeah, that's kind of bothersome. And so I feel like you shouldn't have to panic this early. A lot of things can be justified. Starting off with Kobe White and Patrick Williams, they both had pretty subpar games today. Kobe White shot horrible from the three. Pat, he didn't really do too much. But let's not forget last season. They had the games earlier in the season where they both scored 0 points. I forgot which team that was, but they started out really slow as well as the rest of the team. But they came along as the season went abroad. Patrick Williams, he eventually got hurt, but right before he got hurt, he was actually playing really well that month. Kobe White, you've seen what he turned into throughout the season, and he said to himself that he always starts the season off kind of slower. But I do expect him to play better this next game. I expect Josh Giddey to kind of like his chemistry to get better with the team this next game. I feel like Zoe, when he got in, his chemistry was good with the rest of the team. It's just he didn't play enough minutes, so it wasn't really enough to really impact what was going on with the team. But yeah, even he had one turnover. It's a lot of things you could take from this game, which you can see signs of improvement. First of all, Zach LaVine, he looked really good. And we saw the good and the bad with Zach. That first half he was hot. He was like 5 for 5 from the three, going crazy, shot a heat check. But then you also seen a lot of the turnovers, of course, but you can't just attest it to him. You got to test it to the whole team. Some of the defensive issues. Yeah, the defense is going to have to be something you got to figure out. I know Billy Donovan, he tried to go zone for a while, and while it worked for a little bit, they began to slowly figure it out. Brandon Ingram, he kind of had his way throughout the game. And yeah, that's another thing we're going to have to figure out. The two things are defense and turnovers. And while, you could cut down on the turnovers, you definitely got to figure out what's going on with that defense. But, he still put up, 29, 30 points. And so, he scored well. It's just, those other things that you got to kind of figure out. I talked about Kobe. I feel like Vooch played a decent game, honestly. And another thing that they need to get better at and realize is the matchups. Vooch, he had a matchup throughout most of the game, which they just wasn't finding him. I mean, he's holding his arm up, and Zach LaVine is looking at him, Io's looking at him, and they're not passing him the ball. Same with Pat and Giddey. And so I feel like with more chemistry going on throughout the season, they'll begin to realize those matchups. Because yes, you want to be able to shoot as many threes and hit a number, but you still want to attack the matchup and get those inside paint points. And I feel like that's what they missed out during this game. So hopefully, going through film and things like that, they'll begin to realize that, it's just the first game. Not all hope is lost. We saw some good things from the backup center and Jalen Smith. He showed some things, showed some good energy. You know what I'm saying? Billy still got to figure out that rotation. I know he tried a lot of people, in the first half, which THT, he didn't really show anything. Madas, he looked a little lost out there. And so, we're going to figure out this rotation to figure out what we can do. But yeah, I definitely feel like all hope is not lost for sure. So, I feel like they could get better. They can learn from this, and we can see, how good they do. We definitely have a challenge coming up with facing, the Bucks and then OKC right after. But hey, bring on the challenge. So, comment down below and let me know, how do you guys feel about that game yesterday? And I'm going to holler at you guys later. I'm out.